Welcome to Adventure Thinking, an intimate series of live video podcasts that explores the mindset born from challenge, adversity, and living a life of no regrets. I'm Jonesy, your host, and for the past 20 years, I have been lucky to have embarked on some crazy expeditions and returned transformed with some pretty epic tales to share. Each week, I'll be bringing adventure stories and mindsets down from the proverbial mountaintop as we dive into the hearts and minds of some of the world's greatest adventurers. These are people that have achieved truly phenomenal undertakings against all odds and have returned better for it.
You see.
So, do you want to live more adventurously? This is Adventure Thinking.
Oh, that music, Lauren. Here we go. Fun times.
I feel like I'm in an elevator.
You're just going to dance when you're in an elevator.
I'm just going to dance it.
Oh, man. All right. Well, a little bit late, so sorry about that, everybody. What happened?
Well, I thought to start off, adventure thinking is all about curiosity, learning, trials, fast failures, and adaptation. So we've kind of always been starting these with reflections and lessons learned. So why don't we just have a quick reflection on the Michelle episode? What did you think about that episode, Justin?
Michelle, episode 6 was actually 2 weeks ago now, and that was my favorite one yet because, well, let's put it this way, it was good. It was good. I was actually, the first time I've actually been really, really happy with it. The first 5 episodes is a lot of finding your feet, failing fast and hard. Issues come up. We just had a little issue just then with the audio. Just for some reason there was a ghost in the machine. I don't know what was going on. It sounded like it was a jackhammer.
And a couple of things we had feedback that we fixed is the way when I look at Justin, I'm actually looking at him. So for visual, and we are sitting together, so we're changing that.
Some people thought, they sent us an email going, are you people in different locations? Like in a husband and wife team, but in different locations.
Which we are in the same location, so we fixed that. Also, one thing that we'd love to throw out to you guys is the value of doing this live. We started off the thought of doing this live because it's a conversation and you can be involved. However, the downsides of doing it live are, if your guest can't show up at 12 p.m. on a Wednesday, then that's a challenge. So that's what happened last week. Our guest who was supposed to be on is also a vet and was in surgery. So that's why we missed the episode. Also, there's a lot of technological issues that might hinder the conversation. So we're assessing whether we keep this live or just create a video podcast that then we do like fireside chats afterwards. So let us know your thoughts on that. Okay, should we get into Angie?
We shall. Also, I should just say and frame that if there's anyone's got any questions, queries, or anything, feel free to just give us a hoy. Put a note down. Gary, Tisha, good to see you. Thank you so much for jumping in. I'll actually show everyone that little comment. Here we go. Hi, Gary. How are you? And he's watching us on
hey,
YouTube.
Gary.
So today, super excited for this one. So we have Angie Scarth-Johnson coming on, and she is, well, just awesome, first of all. But she's a 16-year-old rock climber. And she started climbing at age 7 because I don't know whether she's clumsy, but she had some nasty climbing accidents around the house. And I want to jump into that.
I think she fell out of a tree and broke her arm.
She might have done a couple of things. But so started climbing at 7 years old. At 8, she achieved her first hard climb, which is what she calls hard, a grade 27. Now, the max I've ever climbed in my life is a 22.
Can you explain grades to me, Justin? Because I'm not a climber. I just know that Angie's done things that most grown men and women haven't done.
Okay, so in the world, there's a great climbing grading system. In Australia, we use a particular grade system that, is what I'm referring to, 25, 26. It runs up to, at the moment, a 39, which is, I think, Adam Ondra. Is he the only person to have done that? Adam Ondra did a 39, and that's the hardest climb that's been climbed so far. Now, so Angie, to give you a bit, so it's rarefied air. If you're a good climber and you hit a 25 in your life, that's pretty damn solid. You're going to be pretty happy with that. 22, I'm actually happy with my 22, and that's it. That's cool. So Angie, at 8 years old, 27. 9 years old, youngest person in the world, for both male or female, didn't matter, to climb and send a grade 31. At 12 years old, she's the second Australian woman to climb a 34 and the only Australian woman to have done that multiple times. Like, she's just awesome. And she doesn't allow, gender or age to push her in a box or a mold that society believes she should fit in, and that's what I absolutely love. And she is probably one of the most authentic and real people I know in the outdoors. So her theme for today is actually going to be, and every now and then I'm going to play with my computer, her theme is going to be authenticity, and I think that suits Angie.
Super fitting for Angie.
Yeah. So before we get Angie on, we're actually going to throw open we'll actually go over to a trailer of a movie that just got released last year called Pacific Lines, about her. We'll let Angie take it off, but here's the little trailer.
Good luck, Ange. Hope it goes well.
Thanks, Dad.
I started climbing when I was 7, I think it was.
Trees, pool fences. Her focus has always been on climbing hard.
Yeah, I think it was 12. I did a 34, which is currently my highest.
Angie's a pretty amazing human, really.
All the goals that she sets for herself are the goals that she sets.
I was scrolling through Facebook and I found the Elwa video. I saw the name Tonga and I was like, Dad's from Tonga.
Angie mainly knows her Spanish side of the family.
Dad's side had anything really to do with that side. Straight away I showed him and I was like, did you know there was climbing in Tonga?
Who would have thought that climbing would take you back to where my mum was born?
We're kind of going to find something that's not been climbed before.
Oh.
Cool, hey?
Bolting has always been something I've wanted to try, but going to Tonga and having no idea how to do it, it's going to be a bit crazy.
Straight away I was thinking about what is possible.
She won't give up. She just keeps on asking her body for more and more.
Angie, welcome to Adventure Thinking. How are you?
Hi, good.
Hi,
thanks. How are you
Angie.
guys? Thanks for having me.
We're so stoked to chat with you today.
Yeah, no, so excited for it.
Okay, are we on screen?
Cool. Well,
Yeah.
can I just ask you, first of all, how is it watching Pacific Lines in a theatre with everyone, or even online? Because it just got on. There was an online release that happened 2 days ago, was it?
Yeah. It's quite weird. I'm sure you guys can relate to watch or even look at pictures of a past trip, and just all these memories flood back. And even Pacific Lines, I mean, it's an amazing film, but it doesn't show absolutely everything that happened. And so when I look at the film and I look at pictures and stuff, it's like all these memories of adventure comes back.
And do you have a favourite moment from, I suppose, the process of making that film, or even the process of just the stuff that you filmed on it? Like, what's the main thing that sort of jumps out at you from Pacific Lines? Because it's a beautiful film.
Yeah.
I want to make a film that beautiful.
We're still trying.
I don't think I could say one thing in particular. I think there were a lot of different things that happened. I mean, I'd never learnt how to bolt before, and that was new for me. And I got to swim with whales, and that was new. So pretty much the entire trip was something completely new for me, and it was really great to be able to experience different things in my climbing.
Had you been to Tonga before, given your dad is from there, or was this a first for that too?
No, I hadn't been to Tonga, and my dad hadn't been there since he was little, so it was quite nice for him to go back and see his family again, and I got to meet my family, so it was great.
And how was the climbing?
Yeah, it's quite interesting. It was kind of, so that the rock was limestone, but it was almost, it felt really weird. Like along the sea cliff where I had bolted my line, I ended up naming the climb Tomatoa, which is like, I don't know if you've guys seen Moana. It's like the the crab of Moana. And
so we have a 4-year-old.
Have we seen Moana?
We've seen Moana.
And have we heard the songs repeated by a 4-year-old endlessly? Yes.
Yeah, it's so I called it Tomator, but I was gonna call it Mr. Bubbles because the rock had like almost, it looked like there were bubbles coming out of the rock, and it was like a see-through, lots of little balls of see-through rock, and it was quite amazing. So it was like limestone, but no limestone I've ever seen before.
Yeah, epic. I mean, like, everyone should just jump out and watch it because it's actually up live. The North Face, I think there's a link to it, isn't it? It's up on YouTube at the moment.
Yes, it's on YouTube, and it was released a few days ago, so it's free for everyone to watch.
Okay, well, what we'll make sure we do is in the show notes later on, after this is wrapped up, we'll put a link to it so you can jump on, watch it, see Angie just crush it, and just be awesome and learn how to drill bolts in your garage and stuff like that.
But Angie, in the just can I just do a quick little? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. But the one thing that you said on the film when I was watching the trailer before that really grabbed me was, when I saw that, I was just thinking about what was possible. Your mind, and I think that knowing you from the small time I have known you and spent time with you, you kind of always have that mindset. And I remember having that mindset. As a young person, I could change the world. I could, do all these things. However, very quickly, you start believing what others tell you is not possible. And typically others are older and potentially know better. So how do you maintain that, mindset as you grow older? Is that a challenge? And I think that goes into your theme of authenticity as well. Like, have you struggled to kind of be you in this sport, I guess, that there's people that traditionally do not look like you, they're not your age, they don't have your background, etc. Can you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, well, I've never kind of felt a barrier with my age or being a female or any of that. I think adventure is for everyone, and no matter what you look like. I mean, the rock isn't discriminating against you or anything. So I think that's one of the most amazing things about adventure is that it's just you and whatever you're up to. Like, if I want to bolt some rocks at 14, I'm going to bolt some rocks. Like, I just, I don't let anything hold me back. And if it's something I'm interested in, then I'm just going to go for it. And I think that's how kids should learn these days is, if you find something that looks super awesome and creative, then why not give it a go? I mean, you have nothing to lose, really.
I think that's actually almost a super segue into your story. I mean, so the format of the show is that we throw over to our guests, you in this case, and allow them to tell a bit of a story about something that's around that theme they've selected, which is authenticity for you. Now, what you just said there is just, the rock doesn't discriminate, and it's true, the rock doesn't discriminate. But people do, and then that's the hard thing sometimes with the outdoors. And what I've noticed is you get a lot of naysayers, a lot of negativity. So in Australia in particular, you can get a bit of tall poppy syndrome where people try to pull you down. And so I think that might be inappropriate, unless you had a thought that you wanted to bring up.
I think that's fair. Like when I was young, I had that similar mindset, but somehow society changed that. You start believing that things aren't real or aren't possible or you can't make a difference. And I don't know when that happened for me. So I love to see that it hasn't happened for you. And I'm just wondering if that's something that you can, how do you retain that? Because I spent the most of my 20s conforming and then 30s trying to unconform. And I did that through adventure. So I'd love you to kind of dive into your story around kind of how you stay truly you, I guess, throughout this journey.
Yeah. Well, I guess we could move on to
definitely. I mean, like
a story.
You shared a very powerful story to me on the phone. That was going to be your center point. So if you want to jump into that, Angie, I mean, I think this takes place a couple of years ago.
Yeah, so quite a few years ago, when I was 10, it was kind of when I first was, establishing myself and finding myself in my climbing, and even as a person, really. And it goes back a few years. One of my first few trips to Spain, where I was trying a grade 33. And I had never done one before, so it was new for me. And I had skipped from 31, and I was going to try and do this 33 that I heard about, and it was, I heard it was a good one for shorter females. And at the time, like you can imagine, I'm pretty short now, so I was extremely short back then.
Because you were 10.
Yeah. And I, I was looking at this climb, and I spent a few days, looking around the climbing area. I'd never been to this climbing area, so I was, looking for things to climb. And I found this line, and it looked amazing. Like, as soon as I saw it, it was something I wanted to try. Like, going back to not letting things hold you back, I knew it was going to be something really hard because I hadn't done one before. But I was willing to give it a go, and I guess no one had ever told me I couldn't. So, I was psyched for it. And I had, back then, now when I travel, I have 6 months or 4 months to do whatever I need to do before I come back home. But back then, because I was still in school and, I wasn't as fully committed, I only had a month or so, or sometimes even 2 weeks to do what I needed or wanted to do. So I knew I had this time limit, and I was hoping to do it this trip, but I had no expectations on myself. So I started working this climb, and it's a 12-meter climb, and which is very short for a lead route, especially in Spain. So I started working this climb, and it was amazing, and I loved it, and I could see that there was a chance I was going to be able to do it before I left, which was important for me because I knew I wasn't going to be able to come back to the following year. So I really wanted this for myself, and I was working really hard towards it, and every day I'd drag my parents in, and we'd, spend hours at the cliff, and then we'd go home and drag my parents in the next day, and just how projecting is with anything. And eventually on my last week I sent it, and I was so happy with myself because I didn't know I was capable of this, and I was kind of shocked, and I shocked myself, and I was really proud of myself, and it's kind of weird to have that feeling at such a young age, to be that proud of yourself. And I was so psyched, and I called people up in Australia, and I was like, I just did my first 33, and I was actually the youngest had it been what it was, I would have been the youngest in the world to have done a 33. And then, after, I think it was that day that I did it, it was all good. It was what it was, a 33. And then I think it was a day after, or a few days after, and people started saying, oh, I don't think that's the 33 line. I think that's actually the 32. Not a big deal if you think about it in the scheme of things, but for me it was in a way, because had it been what I thought it was, I would have been the first. So yeah, I guess I was shocked. I was like, what do you mean it's not the right line? There's no other lines on that wall. It's just that line. And people were just kind of, not one particular person, but a few people who were just going on about how that the line, if you go too far to the left, it's actually a grade 32, not a grade 33.
Which you hadn't climbed yet.
Which I hadn't climbed, yeah. So I being semi-new to the sport, I was really shocked. I was like, well, what do you mean? There's you can't mistake a line for if you're on it, I thought that choosing individual holds for a rock climb was an indoor climbing thing, when you have coloured holds and you're climbing a coloured line. Rock climbing is somewhere you can, choose your own path on the as long as it's obviously within the section of the route.
Can I jump? How far off are we talking? Like what?
Not, I would
an
say
arm's length, 2 meters,
just a meter, maybe even less. A meter.
That's pretty legitimate.
So from a from a non-climber, there's this mountain. Let's just make it. So this is mountain and mountain, hill, cliff,
whatever.
Wall. Got it. Wall. This is so there's this wall, and there was a line, and you're like, there's only one line up, and I was, and my understanding is that it's a 33. Like this wall is a 33, and if I get up this wall, I achieve the 33. Then you do it, and the climbing community comes back to you and says, oh, you didn't follow the right line, or the way you did it didn't meet a 33, so we're going to give you a 32. Is that correct?
That's what happened. Yeah.
And had anybody else done that and gotten a 33 and or thought they had done it and got a 32? Or was this a new thing?
Yes. So no, the line didn't even have its own bolts. So the 33 was a single line in a cave with no other lines. So there was absolutely, I thought there was absolutely no way I could mistake, climb on half of another line and then join back in. Like it wasn't like that. And I knew previously that there was several people that had sent it the way I did it. And so I was like, well, the point of climbing is to find the easiest way through the hardest sequence. So I was like, well, I found an easier way through this sequence, and I'm going to obviously choose this way over something that's harder for me. And being a lot shorter, that was always what I did, like when I found a new project, that's the first thing that came to mind was, is this going to work for me as a shorter person? And are there ways I can climb through it if there aren't? So with that in mind, I thought I found this new line, not a new line, but, this new type of way to climb through it.
Effective way to climb the line.
That other people had climbed through that way. And I had climbed a few days with just people that were working it as well. And they were doing the same, and they were like, try this way, even to the point where they were like, oh, try this way over here. And I was like, okay, sure, and I, when I sent it, I was like, what's the problem? Like when I was working it and when you guys knew I was close, there was no problem with me doing it that way. But it's almost like you didn't think I would do it. And then when I do it, it's suddenly not what it is.
I mean, like, that's an interesting one because, like, so they how did these people know exactly what you climbed, what holds you've gripped? I mean, like, was that videoed, that one there, or what was the go? We do record everything that I climb for this reason. Okay.
And I had climbed it this way, and because I had, my mum's, we're Spanish, and we were quite close to the community, and we'd chat with them, and I'd sort of say what I did for the day, and I would, give my beta to other people even. And then I guess when I did it, they were kind of like, which way did you go? And, I didn't think anything of it. So I was like, well, I went this way and this way. And they were like, oh, okay, well, that's actually a 32 called Tijuanita. So the actual line that I was trying to do was Welcome to Tijuana, which was the 33. There were no extra bolts. It wasn't an established line or anything. And it wasn't even in the guidebook for the climbing area. I had actually met up with the bolter who came and watched me climb. And he didn't mention anything. He watched me climb. And he didn't say anything about it not being what I thought it was. And we actually contacted him afterwards, and he said that I could have taken it for what it was. But anyway, long story, I had done the climb and realized it wasn't what it was. So I was very disappointed. as you can imagine. I felt almost like I had cheated when it was not intentionally like that. I knew in myself that climbing was, kind of like I guess there's no one coming out with you and watching you climb, so really you could say anything.
Yeah.
So it's like a trust system. Even adventure, just all adventure sports, this is a trust system. And I never, I didn't intentionally do it this way. And when I found out it wasn't what I thought, I was disappointed, and I felt bad, and I thought, my parents were kind of like, well, this is when you have to decide, like, do you want to take it for what you think it is, or take it for what the community is saying it is? With that feeling that you feel yourself that you did it the right way. And so I, being 10, was a bit stubborn with it, and I was like, well, I don't really understand, like, what do they mean? What are, getting all defensive, and I almost felt like, it was my fault. And then I was like, okay, well, I've not done it the right way. I've got to do the right thing by everyone else, and not take it. So I didn't take it, and I left Spain, not having that 33, which I was devastated about. I don't know if you can even imagine what it would feel like. Like, I almost feel bad for my parents, having to tell me that I can't take it, and I think that broke them as well, because they felt quite bad that I had worked so hard, and they saw how much effort I put into this, and then it was just taken off me like that.
You worked on this for a month, like, pretty much, didn't you? Like,
yeah,
a month straight,
I spent all my time on it. Yeah, I spent all my time on it. So, there was no reason why I would intentionally do it wrong. But yeah, after thinking about it for a while, I was like, I want what's best for me and what I will feel better with. And I know that if I take this 33, that I'm going to feel almost like it's not the truth. And I didn't want that feeling, I wanted to feel like it was my achievement and that it was done correctly, and to be proud of it and not have that doubt in my head that I didn't do it right. So I decided not to take it, and that I would come back the previous year, the next year, and do it again. So I did that, and I came back the next year and ended up doing 2 33s. So I got one before I went back, and then I got back, and then I redid it. And by then they had added new bolts and, completely made it a different line. So I was like, okay, well, at least they did that. At least it wasn't just, I guess just calling me out and then not doing anything about it.
Did that take away that record from you?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, it did. It does seem like there's we're happy to let those rules sit for a while, but then all of a sudden
until something happens.
Yeah, exactly. So like people are doing that. The guy that bolted it thought that was legit. It just seems that all of a sudden when there's someone who achieves something, they're like, well, no, that kind of invalidates maybe my efforts. That I might just pull them back a little bit. And it's funny how the world has a way of doing that. The naysayers, they do try and just pull people back down and pinch people back down. I don't like that.
But I think that the two words that you used together that was trust. You were like, the climbing community, there's a lot of trust that you do what you say.
Yeah, of course.
And I mean that's a lot in authenticity too. Like you are who you are. You do what you say, and you are who you are. And I like that those kind of, they obviously are core values to you, because most adults, let alone kids, you say, do you want we ask our daughter, do you want 2 candies, 1 candy today or 2 candies tomorrow? And they say 1 candy today, and the fact that you had that maturity to, I guess, not take something that you so desperately wanted to align with those morals is far beyond your years, I would think. Is that how you've always been? Just really had a strong sense of yourself? Or is that something that you've kind of come into? I mean, at 10, how much time did you have to learn? But where do you get that?
I don't know. I think my parents obviously had a lot of influence on how I was, and you know, they wanted me to be happy, but I think they also wanted me to have that trust with other people, and they left it up to me to decide, but I think I knew deep inside that they wanted me to choose the right thing. And the right thing was to just accept it for what's been said, and to just come back the following year and complete it. So, you know, I was influenced by my parents, and I think that they are the ones to thank for sure, because they, I mean, if you told your 10-year-old daughter that you have this option and this option, she's going to probably take what you're pushing towards. And I knew deep inside that it was the right thing, because I wanted people to trust me, and I wanted people to continuously trust me for my climbing. And I have never lied about things I've done, and I've never cheated in my climbing. So I didn't want to be known for that at all. And, you know, I might cheat in card games, but I'm not going to cheat in my climbing.
Something to note.
and given that, now upon reflection, Angie, just in terms of you had that feel, like you were like, I felt it, like it was just a deep feeling, and it was a core value to me, and you're at the start of your climbing journey. You have a long way to go, and I want to start it off right. Looking back at that experience, was there any life lessons that you took from that you've used throughout the years that you can think of?
Yeah, I mean, I think just even letting things go, like knowing deep inside that you worked really hard for it, and keeping that with you, because I still feel proud of myself that I did it, and I still believe that I did it the right way. And I will always feel that for myself, and I can still take this achievement for myself, but when I obviously put it out into the world, I will say what is the right thing to do, which is to take what everyone else agrees on, and but that doesn't mean that I'm not taking my achievement with me, and I'm still proud of it, and you know, I still had an amazing time, and I just came back and smashed it, which was even better for my confidence. It was better for my confidence, because I was like, you know what, I did the right thing, and I came back and I ended up getting a 32 and a 33. So like, although I didn't get the record, it was okay, because I mean, there's plenty of records to take, and you know, you just have to.
And there's plenty of time too. It's really, I just want to pull on one string before I hand it over to Justin, because I think this is really interesting in terms of the me and the us, because I've struggled that as in my own sense of self, where you know what's right within you, but then you also have to fit into everybody else's expectations a little bit, or you don't have to, but you have to find that balance. And a lot of us get lost in that, what others want, need, you know, what we can do, what we can't do. And I think keeping that curiosity and that maybe naivety, but in a good way, that you can do anything, is really important. And I think about how to do that for our daughters. You know, you met Morgan. We have the best picture of you at the, I think it was one of the She Went Wild things, or we came back.
I'm going to work out how to
but it's the early one, the one that right when we got back from the Outback. But it was the coolest picture. Anyways, I think about you a lot when I think about how to parent her. And I also think about how you said your parents have a lot of this. But you really are driven by self-motivation, because you have this sense of self as what's right and wrong, but then you have a contextual version around who's around you and what that looks like. But where did you get that sense of self-motivation? I mean, even your mom on that video trailer said she sets all of her own goals.
Yeah.
Do you see that happening with your friends? Are you unique in that? Is that something you just always had? Like,
yeah, I don't know. Maybe it could even be the fact that my parents weren't climbers previously, or, you know, they weren't outdoorsy, and that they weren't really in that scene. So any adventure I wanted to do had to be original and was from myself. So I assume that would have had a lot of influence on why I am like that. And you know, you think of crazy things, and because your parents don't know how crazy it is because they don't do it, they just were like, yeah, let's go with it.
But that self-motivation is so important, because then you're not looking for that goal. You said you were still proud of yourself because you knew you had done it, goal aside. Yeah. And I think that internal self-motivation is what will drive you to do things far greater than 33s, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think it's important to, like, you know, step back and acknowledge how you were, and even just, you know, think, wow, I really handled that really well, and I'm going to take this with me and use it in the future for bigger and better things, and it's just going to help you grow more and more. And I think, you know, you always have to make sure that you acknowledge yourself and you're proud of yourself for what you've done, because that's what's going to push you. It's always like anything you do, it's always your mental game that's going to depend on whether you fail or succeed.
I want to jump into the mental side of things for a second, but I've got to do it. I found the photo, so I'm going to try and put it up.
No,
Here.
Not that photo.
Not that photo.
That's another one where Morgan's even here. That's their. They look like they're on a rap video on that photo.
Epic. I love that. That's one of my favorite. I'm going to put it up here in the corner. Here we go.
Okay, I'm going to find the other one. It's the one where Morgan's giving a thumbs up. Okay,
I can put it up. So whilst you're in this picture in, picture out, we can do this. But there's just been a couple of comments. Like Gary's watching this on YouTube at the moment, and he's like talking about the sort of choice to go back. Is like, good call. It really shows your authenticity, and it will follow you in your career, whether climbing or other aspects. And like, you know, I mean, an action like that, especially, I'm not even especially the age, just full stop. It's awesome. It really is.
Adults don't do that.
No, adults don't do that. So it just shows a lot about you. I've always said that you're probably one of the most real people in the outdoors. I think that.
Thank you.
The outdoors, it's true. I mean, the outdoors, there's a lot of bluff and bravado, and you're talking, because generally you're talking about, you know, you blow smoke up your own ass. I like you to try and get media hype or to get sponsors to pay attention to you. And maybe it's because of your age that you don't need to do that. Because when you go off and do something, I mean, everyone watches, because, I mean, I'm not trying to make it about age, but it is quite, not polarizing, but it's just jaw-dropping. I mean, you've got these guys. I mean, so your highest climb at the moment is a 34. So what's that? Is that a 5?
Oh, I don't know American grades.
Yeah, okay.
I only know European and Australian.
I think it's
8C plus in Europe.
Okay. I'm trying to remember whether it's a 514C or a 513C. I'm really bad with it, but like 514.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows?
And most people are like,
most people are like, this goes over. So I want to get into the grades for just a little second, because I know people are like, what are they talking about? 33s, 32s, 34s, it's just a number.
Yeah, what is that?
What is that? I mean, everyone, well, not everyone, but a lot of people would have watched Free Solo, for example. You know, that movie came out last year, and The Dawn Wall as well. Another amazing film. I'd argue The Dawn Wall is probably a better film. But Free Solo, I mean, the freerider route on El Cap, the hardest pitch on that would probably be, what, a 28, 29? I think. Yeah. So, I mean, we're talking, it's an order of magnitude harder. Yes, you're working at these things, and you're not kind of, you know, 1,000
So what
feet
you
up.
climbed is...
Yeah, it's just a different type of climbing, really.
Very, very different type of climbing, but I mean, like, it's hardcore climbing. So when people ask, you know, oh, what are these numbers? It is seriously cutting edge climbing that Angie's doing. Now, I want to talk about something. I'll get into the mindset in a second. 34 at 12. Yeah. And at the moment, you're 34 at the moment still. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's and so what are your current projects? What's going on? What are you working at the moment? What's on the horizon for Angie? What have you been secret squirreling away during COVID, coronavirus? What are you
What gets you excited?
What are you working on?
What makes you get up in the morning?
Yeah, not much, Steve.
You are a teenager.
Okay, you're finally a teenager. Okay, great.
At the moment, I'm working on the Olympic qualifiers. I have been working on that for a while now, because obviously with the COVID stuff, everything's just been pushed further into the next year. So that's what I've been working on, and it's kind of really hard to make new projects at the moment because so much is just happening. You know, every week there's a new something happening. So at the moment, I'm just taking it day by day, and I'm working to get to my strongest for the Olympic qualifiers, and then hopefully make the Olympics. That would be super awesome.
That'd be super.
Have to work hard.
I'm going to throw this photo up here just because like it shows you in the Aussie climbing. Sorry, I'm trying to put it to the corner. There we go. I'll hide Dylan. Sorry, I'll hide Morgan. Here you go. Bye, Morgan.
Yeah, who needs
and then we'll keep this one here. Because that's just... You've got so many cool photos on the internet. Seriously. I mean, like, most of the photos, I Google myself and I look like a goose. Oh, I look half dead. And I'm like, then there's Angie just crushing it and all these... It's so easy to find photos.
Look, I found the picture.
Oh, okay, that photo. Okay.
I texted it to you.
Airdrop that to me. And I'll check it up.
I can't airdrop it.
But how are you going mental-wise with the year delay?
Yeah, that's...
Yeah, well, it's been hard, that's for sure. I will say that. Coming back to Australia, I was meant to do the comp like a month or so after I came back. And then as it got closer and closer, Mum was like, I think they're actually going to postpone it or even not have it. And I was like, oh, really? Like, I've worked so hard, and I've, my training hours were 9 hours a day, almost 9 hours a day, just training. And I was like, well, if they don't have it at all or even postpone it, it's going to suck because I'm going to have to drop back down and then work back up in strength. So I was like, well, this is going to be really hard for me, and I know it's going to affect me mentally if this happens, so I'm going to have to almost prepare myself for it.
Can I just ask quickly,
and then
why do you have to drop back down?
Yeah.
Why do you have to drop back down in strength?
Well, I guess because when you reach such a peak level, you can't stay up there you can't stay up there forever. So you have to eventually allow your body to come back down, or you're going to get injured, or it's just not going to happen. You can't stay at an absolute peak for too long. You have to allow yourself to rest and have time off. And even mentally, to stay that strong and to be training intensely for that long, it's going to exhaust you. So I was like, if this is going to happen, if they are going to postpone it, then I will have to have a break, and I will just have to, let myself calm down, because I was training so hard. My ribs were dislocating out of my body. Like, I was pushing myself the hardest I've ever pushed myself. And I was like, if this is going to happen, I'm going to have to just rest and then go back up, which is going to be easier than just keeping this level. So I was preparing myself, and when they announced it, it wasn't a surprise. They moved it to December. And I was like, the only thing I can do now is just to not forget, but take things out of that last training trip, which was 3 months long, and put it into the next one. There was times in that last trip that I wasn't 100% focused because I've never trained this long, and so I was losing focus some days. Some days I wasn't pushing myself as hard as I should have, and then I would be thrown back a few steps, and there's so much to learn from everything. So I was like, I'm going to take that and I'm going to put it to my next trip, and it's going to be even better. My next training again, I'm going to put it to that, and then I'm going to push harder this time than last time, and I'm going to be
is
better
that coming
and more
up?
ready.
The next training trip?
Yeah. Is that something that's coming up, or have you already done that next training trip? When does that?
No, so my training trip that I did was the one that when I was thinking that the qualifiers, before the pandemic thing happened. That's when I did. And then now I just have to start training again, and do it all over again, which is going to be fun.
The stuff that we're talking here, I mean, like you're training to qualify for the Olympics, which is, let's just hold on, let's just let that sink in for a second. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, like, I remember as a kid, you know, watching the Olympics on TV when I was living in Indonesia, and like, it's something that transcends borders, transcends boundaries. It's phenomenal. Now, how do you feel about the fact that, you know, you're one of, I'd say, what, a handful, 8 people or 5 people? How many people are vying for the team that kind of are true contenders?
Yes, there's 8 females and 8 males that have been taken out of the nationals that we had.
Yeah.
And these people will go forward to the real qualifiers.
So, are you like obsessed by the idea of being at the Olympics? You know, because I've spoken to some Olympians and they're like that's all they are. They're like, I'm going to be an Olympian and that's it. And I feel like you're a bit more than that. You know, what's your take?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm really like the kind of person that will just wake up and have a crazy idea and then go do it. Like, it happened with my bolting expedition, and it happened with the Olympics, and it's going to happen with the next one, you know. I wake up and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do this, and then I go and do it. And I guess after this is over, no matter what the outcome, I might try and do the next round or not. I might try and, you know, do some outdoor adventure. I'm still very much in love with the outdoors. So that's always going to be a part of me, whether I'm continuing through the Olympic years or not. So that's almost not a choice for me, you know, like I have to have that little bit of outdoors or I'm going to go crazy, because that's really who I am, and that's what I am deep inside. And then the Olympics is just that extra bit of awesomeness.
Pretty sweet.
How do you, just pulling on that kind of where you said, I have these big ideas, I wake up and I go do them. I don't know if you even know how you do it, but do you know how you do that? Because a lot of people either if they have big ideas, if they can keep that curiosity and that ability to say, I can do anything, which we all can, but we lose or forget, or it's socialized out of us. What's the process once you have that idea to not then just sit on your couch and talk yourself out of it? Can you tell me any steps that you take to be able to activate on that have worked for you? Because if you've done it time and time again, you must be onto something.
Lauren's asking for a friend.
Yeah, exactly. Justin.
Yeah, well, I guess the process after I find something that I'm interested in is that I'll see if it fits into the rest of my year, because I'm so bad with it. Like, you know, like I'll be like, oh, I want to do this, and then I'll plan it. And then I'm like, oh, I actually have no time left in the year for all of this stuff. So, you know, I'll see when I can do it, if I can do it. And I'll be like, okay, well, I have a time here where I'll be in Australia. I'll just not be in Australia and go do this adventure, or be in Australia, wherever it is. So, yeah, I guess I just kind of look for a time slot that I can do it in, and then I contact people that might want to do it with me, and then I just go for it, you know, like I guess there's no other way to do it, really.
I love it. And do you usually work in 12-month time slots? Is that kind of where your head...
Yeah, it's kind of, I guess also because of the season. So you have climbing season and then comp season, and so everything just goes off the season. So, yeah, I work in a yearly time slot. Yeah. Well,
what's that saying? You always overestimate what you can do in a day, but underestimate what you can do in a year.
Yeah.
I think that speaks to what you said.
Yeah, I think really good goal setters have a really good grasp on what's actually.
And I mean, these aren't flippant projects that you're talking about. I mean, when you're like, yeah, you know, I wanted to do that thing, I just did it. Well, you know, the Olympics is not flippant. People spend their whole lives doing that, and that's fit into the other things that you're doing because you were able to do that, which is crazy. And also, even just on your bolting expedition, where you were like, I met up, or not bolting, the grade 33 on the wall in Spain. What was it? Tijuana.
Yeah. Welcome to Tijuana.
Welcome to Tijuana.
Bienvenidos a Tijuana.
And Tijuanita.
Yeah, Tijuanita.
Spanish? Is your Spanish good?
I don't know what... Oh, if Mum was close, I don't know. She'd be able to tell me.
Is your Spanish good?
It means something, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, my Spanish is... It's average. Like, if you speak to me, I'm gonna be able, I'll know what you say. If you're talking behind my back in Spanish, I'll be like, I know what you're saying.
That's me too.
I was hoping you guys are gonna riff.
No, I cannot riff. I can now. It's been so many years since I did Spanish that I can only do it while having a couple glasses of wine, or I can understand people, but I'm too embarrassed to do it. But I was gonna say on the wall, the Tijuanita. You know, it was interesting because you're like, I brought my parents out multiple times. I picked the season. I built up to it. I talked to the bolter. You know, I found the person in town that had done this. Like, these are very complex project management expedition. You know, like, I know now because I did a small expedition what goes into an expedition, and these are very complex things. I know most adults struggle with project management. Is that something that you've learned along the way? Do you get help to do? How do you do that?
No, I don't know. I'm quite a chatty person. So, like, if the guy who bolted it is in town, I'll probably go up to him and start talking to him. Like, I don't plan anything really. Like, I just know what I want to do, and then things usually end up falling in place, which is good for now until it doesn't, which is kind of like with this COVID stuff, you know, like this time it didn't fall in place and I'm a bit lost, but then I just get back up and I start doing it again, and better this time.
I love that. You are so wise behind your, like, I was so excited to talk to you today because the last time we were on a panel down in Melbourne, and we had a weekend in Melbourne, and
I remember.
It was so fun. Like, it was with the North Face, and they were heroing women in adventure. And so, and we had a really kick-ass group of cool women that were down there, not only on the panel, but in the room. And it was just a really amazing vibe. But I specifically remember that a audience member asked you something. I don't remember the question, but you were talking about failure. And you were so matter of fact. And I don't remember what you said, but I was just like, oh my God.
I remember what I said.
Tell us.
I said it was something along the lines of, like, if you fall, or it was to do with climbing, I guess, because, you know, I don't imagine you're falling anywhere else. But when you climb and you fall, the best way, it was about fear. So if you're scared of falling, the best way to overcome your fear of falling is to fall 100 times.
Yeah.
And then to, you know, do it until you're not scared of it. And then, it's how I kind of described fear, I guess. It was just kind of like literally, you know, that's what you're scared of, then just do it. Do it 100 times until you're not scared of it.
Yeah, I love it. It's so matter of fact, and it's something that, you know, we were talking about failure, and, you know, I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up, and but I didn't want to look silly. Like, even doing this podcast, I've struggled with, oh my God, it's not perfect, or it was really bad at times, or whatever, and I don't like that, and I have to push through it. And I just love you were so clear. You're like, well, if you're afraid of falling, just fall. And pretty soon you won't be. And it just was, and just the way you speak, you are wise beyond your ears, and it's brilliant to be in your realm and watch you do what you do, because it's really impressive, especially raising two girls. You know, if you have, I guess, being that your parents are still around, you're still living with your parents, what advice do you have for any parents out there listening to this podcast of how to raise very independent, you know?
This is like a question for my mom.
But you know what worked, so we can get Claudia in here too.
I could speak from the kids' perspective of what I would want.
What would you want?
Mom. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Or what's worked or hasn't worked.
Yeah. Well, I think the best thing, for me, was my parents just kind of letting me go, and just kind of, you know, they always made sure I was safe. That was like the top priority, but that didn't mean that I couldn't go and make my own plans and adventures, and even with things like school, you know, like my mum, obviously she wants me to learn things I don't want to learn, but I have, you know, I'm really interested in history, and she's like, well, then learn more history, because if that's something you like, then you're going to probably do that over something that involves maths, which I don't like. So it's kind of like, you know, letting your kids just kind of decide, and if it's safe and if it works, then they're going to go do that and probably learn to love that, and that's what they're going to be good at, because if you love it, you're probably going to get quite good at it.
I love that. Be safe, but let them go, and facilitate and encourage passions.
Yeah.
Would be the two things that I got out of that.
Okay.
Easier said than done. But
And what I heard from the previous part of the conversation is let Morgan fall.
You have to be careful what you're saying to Justin, because his view with children about what's safe and effective is, his view about what's safe. No, you're not a risk taker. He's a risk mitigator.
What are you saying?
But I mean, you have kayaked across, from Australia to New Zealand, so you're not like the normal, helicopter parent.
I say this: if Morgan came up to me, or Dylan came up to me and said, "Dad, when she's like 16, it's like, or 18, I want to kayak from here to New Caledonia," I would be the first person to try and stop her. Now, hear me out. Now, there's a reason for it: is that I'd want to be the first barrier to her. She can get past me. I will support her and back her 100%. But I don't want to make it easy for her, because I want to test out how passionate she is. I mean, you just ooze passion. I think it's amazing to see, especially with you say your parents don't have an outdoors background. Sorry, you're going to say something?
No, I was just going to say, what if she came to you and she was like, Dad, I'm going to kayak from Australia to New Zealand, but I'm going to beat your record. Is that okay?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I'm going to go for it.
No, you're not going to do it.
and then she's
he would say, I want to come.
Yeah, she's about to arrive at the beach, and I'll just throw some supplies in her boat just to invalidate her record. No, she's like, I have this fantasy. I do have a fantasy, and that's to row across an ocean with Morgan and Dylan in stages. I'd love to do it. Like, it'd be. I'm not discounting Lauren, but Lauren's
I don't want to row. I'll be in a boat. Yeah. I'll be in a sailboat. I've already said I'll go around. The last episode, I verbalized that I want to sail around the world, so that's on our bucket list because it's out there in the open. 100%. But rowing hasn't piqued my interest in that way yet.
Yeah, we've jumped into the mind well and truly. Sorry, go.
No, I was going to say, I think we had an idea to do a trip to Antarctica. I think it was the Arctic or something.
That's right.
In gold puffies.
That's right.
Yes. Well, hold on. Yeah, that's right. Another thing that Angie is a member of the North Face athlete team, and like
as is Justin. As am I.
I'm going to put an asterisk next to me because Angie's the real deal. So Angie gets invites, and we're all repping our North Face, aren't we? Yeah.
This side.
That side. Angie is I'm in awe of you, and I love what you're doing because you're cracking the barrier between Asia Pacific and North America. So you're at the
North Face
Athlete Summit, in the North Face, and you were the Athlete Summit last year over there. And I don't know where you came back, I think, from that trip, or you get special treatment because you get this gold blingy vest and jacket
that are very American.
Not special treatment. I just go in and I pick it and I say, I'm taking this.
Is that how it works? Because honestly,
so she steals from the North Face.
I have all these black drab ones. I mean, I'm like, I just want to look bling like Angie. So I don't have a photo of you in the gold one, but I've got this awesome photo of you from the side. Look at that. So I'm going to put this on the outside. It's
a powerful picture.
Yeah, that's a really powerful picture. If I was Tech or Claudia, I would have blown that up, and that'd be in the house, and it'd be really awkward because you'd walk past yourself just staring at you.
Oh, like the one is at your.
My grandmother does that.
Give it to Grandma. We'll frame it for Grandma.
Oh, Grandma on whose side?
On my mom's side.
Yeah, it's a really, really strong photo. And actually, it's very similar. We've got this painting just outside our bathroom. And it's
something in the eyes, a determination in the eyes. That's,
She's Polynesian? Where's it?
No, Vietnamese.
Vietnamese, oh, jeez, wow. Completely off. But it's something about it. It's really, really powerful and strong. But anyway, I'll get that picture
Anyways,
down.
back to the
mind.
I'm just going to do a time check.
Okay. I got a couple of questions I have to ask.
Okay.
So we talked about fear. We were jumping into that. I get excited. We were jumping into fear. Now I want to talk about, if I can, a bit of an icky subject of fear and death. I mean, we've had a couple of recent, was it Lucy from...
Luce Duardi?
Yeah,
from France,
France, yeah. Just last week. 16-year-old climber. Do you know her?
Yeah. Yes, I did. Yeah, I was climbing with her at the World Youths.
Yeah.
I was in her category. So she was actually turning 17 this year. So I was in her category the first time and then off, and then I would have been in it this time, but she passed away. But I did know her, and it was quite sad. Yeah.
For all those out there, was it a climbing accident that she fell?
No, it wasn't. It was actually they were out climbing, but it was she was walking across a path, and she lost her footing and she slipped down the cliff. So it was quite sad.
There was another, and this was a climbing death about 5 years ago. I think it was. There was a young gun climber. I think he was also European, and for me,
Tito.
I think so. Was that the one with the quick draw failure? So, he was clipping on through the elastic rather than the actual draw.
Yeah, I remember hearing about him. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I was much younger, obviously. So.
How do you process that though? You're obviously hyper meticulous. Your response to risk and failure is phenomenal. But does that weigh on your mind? Does it not really, or is it just something that you're aware of?
I don't know. It's quite a hard thing to talk about, I guess, because Tito and I think it's Tito. I think that's his name. And Luce. It was different. Like Luce didn't die on the rock. I guess if I was just to talk about it from how I think, and if I was to think, am I going to die doing this climb or something like that? I guess I just think in a way that, we're all going to die eventually. And whether it's now or in 100 years or in 20 years, it's going to happen. So I think as long as you're being safe and you know that you're being safe and you are aware that you have not just your own life, but other people's lives in your hands, especially when you're belaying and, you're responsible of that person's life. And I think nothing to do with any of the deaths, but I think that when you go out climbing with someone, I think sometimes people take for granted, it's just like a day out climbing, but it's actually because you do it so often, you might not think about it, but you have to be aware of the situation at all times.
Yeah.
Climbing's extremely safe. There's my mum, there's no way she'd even let me go near it if it wasn't. Climbing's extremely safe, and as long as you're aware of everything that could possibly happen, and the chances of that happening, you're good to go. It's a hard thing to talk about because you never know. Anything could happen really. As long as you can only control so much really. You can't control everything. So if you're aware of what you're controlling and you've got as much as you can under control, I think there's nothing you can do, and climbing's safe. It's always been safe, and I don't think,
I'm going to sum that up. That's really awareness, and what you're saying here is control your controllables. That's what it is. And you've surrounded yourself with some pretty amazing people. One, you've got your dad, who's going to be a pretty awesome belayer. I imagine that guy must have been at the bottom of a lot of climbs, Celtec. And you got the Cossey brothers up there you've been climbing a bunch with. You've got some pretty phenomenal people that you're surrounded by. Dunk's helping you train for the Olympics, isn't he? Dunk Brown.
He's not helping me train for the Olympics.
Sorry, my bad.
But no. We've been great friends for years. So, and I've been climbing with him heaps. So.
And just to, because I am aware that it's
okay.
It's
I always get so excited. I want to talk for years, and I always get pulled back in because I have to.
Which I think we always kind of do a quick tidbit, and then you can have a question, and then we should go into some of the audience questions. Right. But we always try to encourage, I guess, give your adventure thinking and put your mind on. Saying, if you were to really show up authentically, what are some things that you could put in place today or this week that help you do that? Now, you've already said for parents, the things that you can put in place to raise a child like this a little bit is, definitely make sure that the environment is safe, but then let them go. And the other one was from the parent one. You had two. And
I'm going to go with let them fail. That's the one that I'm sticking to.
Yeah, if you're scared of falling, fall. There was another one. I'll come back to it. But so those are really good from a parent perspective. But from just a human perspective for yourself, if you could give anybody advice on staying authentically you, what could you do that? What could they do in their lives to help them, I guess, protect that authenticity? We talked about protecting a goal in the last podcast. So how do you protect your authenticity?
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said with Welcome to Tijuana, I did it and it wasn't what I thought. So I took it for what everyone else was saying, but I still took the feeling of success and I still gave it to myself. And I think that's important to acknowledge your success and to, just let it happen. And then also acknowledge failure, I think, is important as well, because you're not going to, it's how it works. So you're not going to proceed if you're not taking everything with you. So I think the best way to keep yourself and to keep unique to yourself is to just always, even just, choose your battles with people like you. Like in that time, I was like, okay, they probably know more than me because I haven't been climbing as long as some of these guys, and I'm going to take this and, just go on with it. So I think that's helped me go on a lot.
I think that's really powerful. Kind of have that sense of that internal drive and sense of self and motivation and know when to let it go. Also, accept the failures because you're not going to have one without the other, and kind of,
exactly.
And listen, be empathetic, I guess. Take some information in as well.
I'm sending Morgan up to learn from you, but I'm going to come along as well so that I can learn from you too.
We'll come learn from their parents, and Morgan can come learn from you.
I love your parents. I think they're fantastic.
Yeah.
Every time I see them, I'm just like, I get such a good vibe from them and a good feeling. It's like, I'm not even getting the warm hug, but I feel a warm hug from them. I know that sounds so funny.
No, my parents are the same. They're like, if like they're at an event with me, a North Face event, and you're there, they'll be like, Dad will be like, "Oh, I saw Jonesy over there. We should go say hi."
Well, maybe Tech and I should go do something. Can I go do an event with you, Dad?
Yeah, sure. I'm sure he'd be happy to do that.
I want to do that.
Should go do
He might hold you back quite a bit though.
Oh, no way. We'll find his forte and strength. But I've got to put this photo. Oh God, I can't pick this photo up.
Picture of Morgan.
The picture of Morgan. Lauren found it.
Can I put it in front of the camera?
No, here it is. Bang! Oh, there we go.
Look how much you both have grown.
Sorry, I gotta make that smaller somehow. There we go. Look at
Fist
that.
bump.
Morgan.
So little.
So
I
cute,
know.
so cute.
Both of you are.
I remember that. That was like one of my first times public speaking about my climbing.
And you did awesome.
You did awesome.
Yeah, but I was nervous for sure. I remember having all the notes and I was like reading exactly all of them, and now it's a lot more chill.
Talk about authenticity for a moment. I just had a flashback. I remember at that event that we were on the way out, and it was you, your dad, me, and your mum, I think, was there as well. But we found something on the way out. It was something. It was a climbing anchors thing or something. It was a bit of gear. And it was a bit of climbing gear, and I was like almost kind of like, well, I'm not a climber, but Angie, here you go, score. And you're like, oh no, I'm just gonna go find someone and return it, and like, and I was like, what? And I was like, that just shows you as a human being. It makes me sound like a terrible person. But we should jump into a couple of last questions, because I did get a couple of questions beforehand. We had a question pop up that how did Angie get into climbing, but you already covered that off, which was, being very clumsy around the house and falling off things. There was a question that we had online, which was, sorry, I'm trying to get to it. One that I was asked actually yesterday, and this is a question from Gordon Eckel. He asked me, How do you reframe and reset your mind when you're trying to get through a crux, or a difficult point, when you've tried and failed and failed and failed so many times on it? How do you train your mind to view that differently, or view that in a positive manner rather than just as a constant source of failure? And I think he's probably speaking from his own perspective there to a degree.
Yeah, I think patience is the most important thing. Like, it's not gonna, if it's hard enough for you to be getting frustrated with it, it's not gonna go super fast. So I guess you just got to kind of take a step back, and even leaving sometimes helps for me. Like, if I have a project anywhere really, and I'm getting really muddled and frustrated and I'm not sleeping at night because of it, I just leave. Like, I don't come back for a week or a few days. I don't even think about it, don't even want to, nothing. And then I come back with a new, I'm just thinking, like, when my mum, because I know when I was younger I'd get really frustrated, and I didn't know how to handle it, so I would always take it out on my dad, because, you know, he was the closest one there. So I'd be like, Dad, you pulled me off the rocker, that's why I fell off, or something like that. And I remember Mum would always say, okay, let's go home and let's come back with fresh eyes, is what she would call it. Fresh eyes it's like coming back with a new set of eyes, as if you didn't even know the climb, and viewing it a different way from a whole new perspective. But yeah, I remember I used to get really stubborn. Like, I used to clip myself into the bolt, and I would not come down. And I'd get really angry, and Mum would be like, "Come down now," and I'd be like, "No, I don't want to come down." And so I clipped myself in hard, and I'd stay up there for hours just because I was annoyed. But yeah.
Sorry, how old were you when you were doing this?
11.
Oh, from the start.
I thought you were going to say last week.
Most teenagers would slam their door and lock their parents out, but you'd bolt yourself up too high and just hang there.
Exactly what
this is a little photo that how old were you here? Sorry, I gotta ask. In this pic,
I would have been
so little.
Seven, maybe 8 or so. Yeah, it was when I sent the 27, so it was 8. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's when she climbed many more grades than you've ever climbed.
Hey!
Is that true? I mean, I'm not judging. I've never climbed anything, so I need to still try.
I'm very proud of my 22 over in. It was in New Zealand 22, so I believe that's well and proper. So sorry, I'll take that photo down, Angie. Couple more questions, because there have been a couple. So another one was what inspires you, very quickly?
That's a good question. I think I guess just even other people inspire me. I'll see them doing something and it will spark an idea in me, or even just what they're doing, that will spark ideas in myself. And other adventurers are my inspiration. And yeah, I guess that's where I'm inspired through.
Other adventures. Okay, so
that'll be a good question for our final question.
Okay. All right. So that was. Thank you, Shannon, for that question. Coralie, who Coralie Fleming.
Yes.
Yeah.
She was on the panel.
She asked you a couple of questions.
Hello,
and
Coralie.
very, very quickly. One is, where do you see the future of Australian climbing? I know it's a very loaded question, but if you could quickly.
The future of Australian climbing. I think Australia has a long way to go. I think even climbing has a long way to go. I think Australia, there's a new generation of younger, really strong people coming through, indoor climbers and outdoor climbers. And I'm even excited to see where Australia goes. I think the comp scene will change a lot. Even you can see gyms opening every week. Gyms are popping up all the time, and you can just see it getting bigger and bigger and more professional. And I think that's where we're heading, is to becoming a really professional sport.
Is that good or bad in your view? Because climbing...
It's great. I think it's great. I think, why wouldn't you want to share climbing with more people? I think, but then it kind of goes along your question before about safety and death. With all these new climbers coming through, it's also important that they have mentors and they have people like I did to teach them how the ropes go and how to be safe, and so that they know that the priority is to be safe. If you're going to do a climb and there's a chance that it's not going to be the safest, don't get on it. And I think that, you know, there needs to be people that help the new people come through, help them learn that, because I was really grateful that I had that, and you know, my parents were grateful that I had that, and I'd hate to see an accident happen because someone didn't have that.
Awesome. And one kind of thing Coralie has asked, what's your advice to other young people of colour wanting to break into a very white, male-dominated sport?
Yeah, well, I think so. My background is Latino and Pacific Islander. So, you know, I'm not coloured, but coloured.
Yeah.
You know, I think I don't even understand why people discriminate against anyone, really. Like, whoever you like, what colour you are, what language you speak. I think it's adventure is adventure, whatever you look like. And I think that people just need to get over it and just, I mean, it's obviously not that simple, but I think people just need to accept people for people and accept that we are just, you know, we're fighting against each other when we could grow with each other. And I think that's how it should go.
Angie, you just made me cry. I'm actually crying.
It's good life advice, not just adventure and beyond. Awesome. That's beautiful. It's beautifully said.
You're a beautiful human. You really are.
Oh, thank you.
Final question, Lauren.
Final question, I guess, Angie, just like you said, what inspires you? And you said other adventurers and other people pushing the limits and following their dreams and doing these amazing things that then spark something in you to want to find your amazing thing. That's perfectly the description of why we created this and what adventure thinking is and why we wanted to speak with people like you. So after every time we've been speaking to a guest that comes on, we've asked them the question, so who should we talk to next? Who do you think is a great adventure thinker, one that you've learned a lot from, and who should we have on to share their wisdom?
There's so many people. Well, I don't know.
Top 2 or 3 or 5. Or top 1.
I don't know. Who else can you speak to? I'm just trying to think who else I'd be.
I mean, as big as or small as you want.
Yeah, just someone, you don't even have to know them, but someone that's inspired you that you really are like, they have a wonderful mind, or they are an adventure thinker that I've learned from.
I don't know. I think there's lots of people in the mountains you could choose from. You know, like they all have similar stories. You know, there's so many people in the mountains.
Should we get the Cossies and talk about Ninja Warrior?
Yeah, do that. The Cossies. That sounds good. I'm sure they have some awesome stories as well. And
there's some crazy stories.
Some funny stories.
But like, if you do think of someone, I mean, like, just maybe someone you met on your travels over in Spain, in the US. Is there anyone, or the North Face athletes? You know, does someone really jump out at you? Anyone?
Oh, you put me on the spot.
I'm going to
I don't know. I'm sure there's like, if I come off this, I'm going to be like, that person. But I don't know.
Have a think and let us know then.
I will.
We'll put you on the spot.
Sure.
Yeah, because it helps for when people have, you know, inspired you to find that thing within yourself, then I'm sure others would find that as well. So it's getting those things out to more people, I think, outside of this traditional adventure community.
So
there's a couple of people that have said to Cossies. It's just, I think you need about 3 hours.
Probably. Yeah, I mean, you could do one individually for them or something.
Sure.
I think they'd be
fun.
Yeah, it'd be fun to get them both on.
Go.
Are they twins? I don't.
No, they're brothers.
Yeah.
They're just, you think they're twins at times. Now, just a couple of little comments that we've had just pop up. Angie's parents are doing a lot in the Parental Olympics, gold medals to them. So that's what Gary was saying here.
Parental goals.
Parental goals. There you go. Taking
hashtag.
Claudia.
I'll let them know.
Matt Murphy threw up, this is a long one, so refreshing to watch a young lady talk with a maturity well beyond her years, as well to see a millennial getting outdoors, dreaming big and walking her own path and not succumbing to social media or sitting around on computer games. You never know, Angie might be doing that as well.
I do that.
There we go.
Are you a millennial or are you like a zillennial or something?
Oh, no.
No, I'm a millennial.
You're so
millennial.
Yeah, okay.
My mum never lets me forget. Always telling me.
It's Gen X. She's Gen X, yeah.
Yeah, something old.
Something. Lauren.
No, I'm right on the cusp. I'm 1980, so technically I don't know what I am.
So I'll take that down now. But look, Angie,
thank you.
So good to chat to you.
Thank you.
We'll come up and visit you in the mountains. This has been so many great tidbits there. Adventure is adventure, I think, is just something that sums it up for me. This has been really special.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
We've loved having you, and we'll visit in the mountains. We'll put on fluoro puffies in Antarctica. Anything else?
No, we don't get them. We wear drab black, Lauren. Angie gets the gold to stand out. So I'm just going to quickly say, how do people follow you? What's going on? How do we
follow your journey?
Just Instagram and Facebook. Same.
Yeah. It's the same handle, isn't it? Oh, that's what I've got.
Angie Scarth-Johnson.
Yeah. It's that one. And that's your website there.
Yeah.
Awesome photos up.
Although I should probably put more on there than I already do, but you can just probably get everything on my Instagram and Facebook.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, this has been.
Thank you, Angie.
So much fun. Angie, stay on the line for a second because I just want to have a little quick wrap up with you afterwards. But we'll bow out. So everybody, thank you to Angie.
See you next week. Do you want to?
Thank you so much.
Do you want to say who's coming on next week?
Hang on a second. What's going on, Lauren? That's just you. Oh no. Oh my God, we have a tech issue. Lauren, can you just stare at the camera and just talk for 1 second? What's
just look really shocked. Are we still on live?
We are still live.
Oh, sweet. So who's coming on next week? Can you tell?
I can tell. Now I want to. What is going on? Here we go.
You want the picture?
There we go. There's the picture to us.
You're back, and we are sitting here.
The camera
together.
went to sleep. So who's next? Who is next week? Well, it's a guy called Jeff Wilson, actually. We're going to be doing this on Friday instead of Wednesday. Friday at 12 p.m. And the reason for that is Jeff is a vet surgeon. I mean, he owns several vet practices. But the reason why we're getting him on is because he is a phenomenal adventure in his own right. So Jeff just got back from a trip this last Antarctic summer where he kite skied, travelled 5,300 odd kilometres over 60-something days, and set a record for the longest unsupported solo expedition in a polar region. And I've got a little clip that I want to play for that just as a precursor and pre-teaser, and we'll jump into some other guests that are going to come in the next few weeks as well. But here is a little snippet of Jeff.
Wow, that is one impressive snow booger.
Only an experienced explorer would still have a sense of humour, battling the icy elements solo.
Semi-blizzard conditions.
For 23 days straight. Dr. Jeff Wilson embarked on his Antarctic expedition last month, aiming to be the first Australian to make it to the continent's furthest point from any ocean.
The pole of inaccessibility is that away.
The Gold Coast vet drove 12 hours to his starting point. He's now using the wind and travelling with nothing but a sled weighing 200 kilos.
Just trying to stay a little bit sane. Part of that is checking the forecast.
The father of three is carrying enough food for 91 days and a special piece of satellite equipment.
I've got the Pivotal system set up in the tent. You can see it's absolutely frozen. Minus 24 in here, but I need to set it up.
So he can broadcast his entire expedition live this morning, dialing into the ABC on Skype to mark his first milestone.
First Australian in our 200-year polar history to make it to this point.
I've managed to make distance every day, so my poor body was absolutely desperate for rest. So I had a beautiful day in the sleeping bag at it's been about minus 30.
All right, so we have Jeff coming up next week. It's going to be super, super fun. Check out his details below if you want to get a little idea of what he's been about. That's the longest journey.
And thanks again, Angie.
Thank you so much. Coming up in the next couple of weeks, we have, or the week after that, we have Jess Watson. That's going to be a super fantastic one. Also got a pretty interesting email last night.
Are you going to say it?
Well, that's pretty interesting. Yeah, so we've got Conrad's also agreed to do it, and also
Conrad Anchor,
obviously. Eric Burma, who's like one of my man crushes. I think that's what's keeping him a bit scared from actually scheduling in.
He's an Antarctic polar explorer,
and also madcap, crazy
kayaker.
Yeah. Crazy, like it's awesome. But he, and also we just got an email actually.
Should we hold the email? Should we not announce it now?
I won't announce it.
Okay, we have someone really big.
Really big. Has just kind of agreed. But if you've got any thoughts on who we should get on, send us an email, send us a message, jump onto Instagram, the website, and leave us a note.
Also, let us know if you like live or if it's distracting, because we're going to give it a couple more times, but we could go either way. So tell us if you like it. Yeah.
Okay. Peace out.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Angie is a legend.
Have a great week.
Follow her. Do all that. She's
awesome.
Beautiful. This is great. Everyone have a lovely week. And we are done. Angie!
Thank you.
Oh
Thank
my gosh,
you.
like seriously, so many
That was awesome.
amazing